Welcome back to the Resistance Broadcast, everybody. I'm John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have an excellent, special episode of the Resistance Broadcast today. Why? Do we have a guest? No guest today. Are we revealing something? Nope, not really. But we do have a brand new segment that we're debuting on the podcast today, and we're having an awesome discussion later about a potential situation regarding Kylo Ren at the end of episode 9. But first, James, Lacey, guys, how you doing? Welcome back. The base is open. It's time to podcast Resistance Broadcast style. How are you?
I think that the future of the podcast is going to be interesting, since now we're discussing hypotheticals.
We never did that before.
Yeah. Lacey, are you excited to discuss hypotheticals?
Not really, only because this could go very badly for me. So...
You know what's funny about that? Like, we're doing a discussion based on a hypothetical ending, but we're not doing our normal segment where it's all hypotheticals and Will of the Force. We're actually putting Will of the Force away for a day. Like, we didn't want to do too much hypotheticals, I guess.
I'm really bad with ambiguity, so this is like my nightmare.
Oh,
Do you think
it's going to be great.
If in The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren was actually obsessed with Rey, they would have nicknamed him Kylo Stan?
James thoughts.
James thoughts. James,
That's a hypothetical.
I stand James Baney. All right. Speaking of James Baney, he is going to take us through our brand new segment that we're unleashing to you right now. Because why? We like to keep things fresh around here, and we like to create new things for you guys, and we hope you like it. And this is called One with the Force.
The Force is with me, and I'm one with the Force.
Yeah. So the idea.
What an
we're
exciting! James is so excited for the new segment.
Yeah.
It's like hearing that you just got a parking ticket. He's like, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what this show is. This is brand new.
The team's staying together and working late tonight.
James, pretend there's there's a new item on the menu at Chipotle.
I don't get it. I get the same thing.
Okay.
They've tried to bring in like churros or whatever,
give
and
that.
I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be like, cool churros, cool queso. I don't care. So this segment is a little different than Will of the Force. So every question doesn't start with Will. That's the first change. But what the question is something that will have us choose only one. So you'll pick up on this really quick. This is like when you're playing a board game. Like, let's just start playing. We'll get it as we go along. All right. So the first question up is: you have to fight one Sith Lord one-on-one. Who would you pick to fight for your best chance at surviving? Lacey, you're up first on this one. Who you picking? Who you dying to?
Yeah, so the funny thing is, before we recorded, James and I were talking about, okay, so like this is a basic like, who least likely am I gonna die like the quickest?
Yeah.
Which I would die in every scenario. I feel like every Kessel run we do is something dangerous. It's like, okay, how would I die? Here are 4 ways. I'm going to pick Darth Maul because I gave this answer to James. If he tries to do some crazy jump move, I could like lay down or jump underneath him and then run away. And I think I'd do okay. Because he doesn't like have any like crazy speed runs or anything, and he's usually on that bike, so I could probably get away. Whereas I think Vader would just
beat
choke
Darth
me.
Maul
He did what?
in that battle video. I forget what those were called.
What are you talking about?
Like Batman versus Darth Vader and Spider-Man versus Darth Maul. You remember these?
Yeah, lame.
Yeah.
Or like he's
But
the type of person that would get too cocky and you could like trick him up a little bit. Whereas I feel like Vader, if I picked him, I would just want to die because he'd probably like do it in the most epic way, like throwing me against the ceiling and then slicing me in half like in Rogue One.
All right. Okay. I dig it.
So
All right,
Darth
John,
Maul.
what do you think? Who are you going up against?
Count Dooku. And what I would do is before I faced him, I would go to CVS. I'd buy myself a big bag of Werther's Originals. I would show up to that fight. And I would throw every one of those hard candies on the floor right in front of him. Then he gets distracted and he wants to pick them all up because he wants to eat them because he's an old man. And old men love Werther's Originals. And then I cut his damn head off.
I don't know that old men love Werther's Originals so much as they love giving them to children.
No, they definitely love them because in my grandma's house,
they
she
eat
had a
them?
bowl of those. And that was
But
like.
did she eat them or did she just put them out for you to eat?
I don't know the way you said that was weird.
All right,
That's
well,
what I'm saying.
James-
You saying that your grandma had a bowl of them doesn't disprove my point. It
James-
actually might prove it.
Who are you fighting?
I'm fighting Palpatine.
Really?
Yeah,
Explaining.
because I think that because he's the master, he's the guy with the grand plan. If Maul or Vader or Tyrannus were sent to kill you, you're dying. There's no negotiating, there's no bargaining, there's no bigger plan. The plan is they're supposed to kill you because the master said so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if the master was kind of coming after you or you came into contact with him, I think that there's a chance that Palpatine would be the kind of guy that could be like, I have other uses for you. And
You would
he
just
might-
join him?
No. I'm saying he might send you to go do something which would, A, probably prolong your life, and 2, you might actually be able to, like, get away. Like, he might be able to be like, I have a mission for you. You might be more useful to me not dead. And then you'd be like, yeah, I can do that. And then as soon as you get an opportunity, get
All
away.
right. Interesting. Okay.
If I did that, I'd show up and he'd be like, yeah, you're worthless, and would just immediately
Yes,
kill
for
me.
sure. I mean, I'm not dead. I'm still in the boat of like, we're all dying.
Yeah. I think I got Dooku though. All right. What else?
Werther's Originals, man. All right. So, okay.
It was an original answer.
All right. So our next one is you have to kill one of these characters in the Rise of Skywalker. One of these 3 have to go down. Your choices are R2-D2, C-3PO, or Chewbacca. And listeners, by the way, fill these out in the comments. Put who you would, if you had to kill one, who would you kill? John, I'm starting with you.
James,
Why
what did I
are you killing R2-D2?
James, remember what I said to you before this episode. Go ahead,
yeah,
John.
Yeah.
I'd kill C-3PO. Because he's not R2 and he's not Chewbacca. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I still love C-3PO, but it would have to be him without a doubt.
Lacey, who are you killing?
So before the episode, I said John would never kill Chewbacca.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
You don't kill the family dog. I'm sorry.
Never.
You just don't do that.
Yeah. I would kill C-3PO. Never.
You would too, huh?
No,
Yeah,
fur.
because James has taken your top spot with all these jokes, John. You better watch out. He's trying to dethrone you.
Hey, that's okay.
I would choose C-3PO because Chewbacca is like your best buddy. And then R2-D2. Oh no, this isn't the question I said Chewbacca for. Now that I think about it. We're going back later. So then R2 because I'd keep around because he's super witty and funny. And then C-3PO is just kind of there. Bye.
Wow. Okay. I mean, he bailed them out in Endor, but that's cool. I mean, I killed him too, so I'm with you. James, who you got?
Chewbacca.
What?
Dead.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're not friends anymore. How's that? You own 2 dogs. How are you killing the family dog in Star Wars? What are you doing?
Because here's the thing is R2-D2, I feel like people would, I don't don't know that people would get like emotional, like maybe Len, but I don't know that people would get so emotional as they would be like, why? Like, why did you do that? You know? And the same thing kind of for C-3PO is I feel like people would be like, oh, whatever, they killed off C-3PO, that sucks, but I don't know. But I feel like if JJ was like tasked and he's like, it's Bob, and he's like, you gotta kill Chewbacca, right? And he's like, I don't want to. And they're like, but you have to. And he's like, all right, so how am I going to do this in the best way possible? I think they could do something really cool with his death. Like they could send him out in a really awesome, heroic, the end way. And it would be like, man, that sucks that character had to die, but dang, what an awesome death. Like, and I think they tried to do that with the moon thing and it didn't work.
Oh, God.
But I think that's what they were trying to do is he was like going to stay on the planet and he was going to try to deflect, or I don't know what the story was, but right. I think he could actually bring some real emotional weight to his death because like if anybody deserves to die, it's not him. He's like the Agent Coulson, you know?
Fine, whatever.
Fine, whatever. All right, murdered the whole vibe of the podcast.
I'm not okay with that answer.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so then don't put Chewbacca as an option next time. All right. From killing to saving, now we're going to move into saving. You can alter the story and save one Rogue One character from death. Who are you bringing back? John, you are first on this one.
Chirrut Imwe.
I knew it. I knew that's what you were going to say.
I wish I got more of Donnie Yen playing that character, and I don't know if they'll bring him back prequel style, or, whatever. Or he'll cross paths with Cassian at some point. That'd be cool. But I would love to just see him go on and do more because of his connection with the Force and how just good of a person he was and how important he was to that story. And very interesting character I wish I saw more of. My second pick was going to be Krennic, but I know James probably picked that. So I'm saying Chirrut Imwe. So I bring you back, Chirrut. You're coming back.
Lacey, what do you think? Who are you bringing back?
I'm going to bring back Cassian. I think he's an interesting character. He's rough around the edges, but with a heart of gold. I think it'd be really cool to see him interact with Han Solo. And I think he could give Han Solo a run for his money with Leia.
Ooh.
And that would be super interesting to me.
So ordinarily, I think that the two on my table, one is Cassian, but I'm not choosing him for a specific reason. But Lacey, you're dead on. Like that, I love that character, and he's one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars.
Could you imagine him on the Death Star with them, like going into the trash compactor and stuff? Like the bickering between him and Han.
The only thing about Cassian though is that I feel like he's been in that fight since he was 6 years old, and he has a lot of tales and a lot of really cool stuff that we could do. And he's served the rebellion well, and that's a fitting end to his life. But I feel bummed for the missed opportunity with Jyn. I would bring Jyn back, because I think that she was trying to figure out her whole life, and when she finally figured out who she wanted to fight for, she only got one chance to do the right thing. So if she would have survived that, I think she would have been a really interesting person to pay attention to for the rest of the existence of the rebellion.
All right. So we got Jyn, and then Cassian, and then Chirrut. Interesting.
RSS feed.
So no beach hug.
Oh no, RCC feed.
RCC feed.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind.
Zany Baney.
Let's roll it on.
I really don't
All
know
right.
what I'm talking about. Next one up is you can erase one Star Wars novel from canon. What do you choose? You get to take one of the books and burn it, and no one ever remembers it existed. Lacey, what book are you burning?
Last Shot. Made no sense.
Last Shot?
Yeah, made no sense. The time jumps were weird. the different like random current events thing that are thrown in, like words that are never used in Star Wars, and I don't know. It was just really weird and hard to understand, so I'm saying last shot.
Last shot. All right. John, what do you got? You got a book you want to get rid of?
I probably would have said Last Shot, but I'm not going to now. So I'll just say Lost Stars.
You haven't read it.
Just taking away people's joy.
Yeah, I'm a thief of joy. Either Legends of Luke Skywalker, I guess, or...
You didn't like a certain point of view.
Yeah, that bothers me too. Actually, that's probably my pick. From a certain point of view.
You're welcome.
Some of the stories drive me nuts. Yeah, that one's gone.
My pick is Battlefront Twilight, or not Twilight Company. Yeah, Twilight Company. That one. The Alexander Freed one. I've said this before, but like there's too much military speak and so much jargon. It's really hard to pay attention to what's going on. And I've read that book twice and I still don't really have a firm grasp on what even was happening. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I really can like kind of grab onto is at the end, I know they're at Hoth and I know they're experiencing like Vader breaking in from a different perspective, but it's still like, I couldn't really tell you much about any of the characters, and like I know they try to get into details, but it's just I get so lost. And I'll be honest with you, Alphabet Squadron's the same way for me. I'm like not digging it right now for that same reason.
It's
and
almost...
I looked at the Wikipedia page and I went to like characters, like everybody who's in it, whether it's like a mention or anything, and the only existing character in that book that they talk about that is previous to canon is Harrison Dula and the main character, Erica Quell. And that's only because Erica Quell is from like a comic. Mm-hmm. Every single character in that book is a new character, and it's too much. Names are flying every angle. I can't keep track of anybody. And I think that's Alexander Freed's style. But let me finish that book before I say Twilight, or before I say that, I'm going to say Twilight Company now.
You can almost say he's like the Tom Clancy for Star Wars at this point. He has a niche, and that's the niche they want him to write.
I think so. Yeah. He also wrote Force Awakens novel, though, which is interesting, but I think that's because he had already pre-written material. Am I wrong on that?
Which novel did he write? You're saying a Journey to the Force Awakens novel?
No, the Force Awakens novelization. Wasn't that Alexander Freed?
No.
No?
No, Lacey knows who that was. What was that guy? What was that?
Alan Dean Foster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Never mind.
Yep.
All right. Last question up. Who is the one character in Star Wars you would trust the most to have your back? Lacey, this one starts with you, right? Or no, John?
Can we do John first? I need to think about this for a second.
Yeah, let's do John. Let's get this out.
It's got to be Beckett, right?
That's a solo joke.
That's a solo joke. Man, to have your back. Jeez, this is tough. It's got to be Chewbacca.
All right, I'm sitting there staring at Lacey like I'm waiting for her reaction.
I wanted to
this
say
was
Han.
Actually the one where she said you would say Chewbacca.
I wanted to say Han, but he did have his wild card days where he was very scoundrelous, and before he decided he wanted to join the greater good. So, but Chewie's just so damn loyal. Like no matter what Han is in, he's like, here we go again. He's like, all right, I don't care how stacked the odds are. No, you never to tell you them. So let's do this. So yeah, for me, it's got to be Chewie. I know that's a boring answer because people probably expected it, but I had to say it.
It's not boring. I just knew you were going to say it because you really, really love Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And you've always said that you want to go on adventures with Chewbacca.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. Yeah.
All right, Lacey, tell us who's your one character that will always have your back.
I actually at first said Chewbacca, but because I knew John was going to say Chewbacca, I'd probably say R2-D2. I feel like R2 would go to the ends of the earth to help you out, or will do whatever you ask to make sure
That's a
you
good
get
pick.
what it. Because like Return of the Jedi, where he shoots the lightsaber out of his head to Luke Skywalker, like all the ways that he saved the Skywalkers is just a prime example of like R2 is the guy to have.
Yep.
He'd be in your ship, and like when you go into battle,
Mm-hmm.
he knows what's up. So R2D2.
Nice.
So I looked at like the core 3 because I could sit for hours and think about so many different characters, but I looked at the core 3 and I was like, Han Solo, same reason John said, I don't know about that guy. he might turn for whatever reason. And then I looked at Luke and I was like, Luke's probably a pretty strong answer. But the only thing about Luke is I feel like he might kind of get caught up in like what's the right thing to do. He had a lot of like issues towards the end of like, I don't know, should I kill him? Should I not kill him? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? He's trying to figure himself out too. I think the most loyal, always going to have your back person, Leia.
Mm.
I kind
think
of feel
Leia-
like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I had the same thing in my head about Leia, but then I thought like, she's the type of person though that would sacrifice one to save many.
I don't know.
She was a terrible,
Can you think of an example where she would
terrible
have done
mother.
that?
Terrible mother.
I never said she was a terrible mother.
No, I just did.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I just feel like because she's the head of a very important organization that she might lose sight of something that's more personal than something that's more bigger picture.
Yeah, I think it's a
You've
good
seen
pick,
the new
though.
Mission Impossible movies, right,
Yes.
Lacey?
Yes.
You know how like in the movies they're like, I trust you because you are the person that would sacrifice the millions to save the one. I think the opposite. I think that Leia has that in her. She understands how important an individual can be. And she doesn't trade lives, as Steve Rogers would say.
That makes sense. I mean,
I don't know though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can think of an example where she would do the hard thing, but like it ain't Cassian, you know. Cassian would do the hard thing, and he would
True.
kill a loyalist in order just to preserve information or something. So
That's true. That's true.
all right, well that's it. Let us know what you guys thought of One with the Force. Make sure to put all of your answers in the comment section
Yes.
below, and let us know if you would like to see this. Don't be rude, but like let us know, how did this compare to Will of the Force? Would you like to see more One with the Force show up every once in a while, or if you just were like, nah, that stunk. Bring
and
back
honestly,
Will of the Force.
It really gives us an actual reason to say, it's back, baby!
Yeah. You gotta take the highs with the lows.
Yeah.
All right, now that we're done with that, we're going to move on to the Patreon Podrace. And if you don't know what this is, this gives our generals, our general supporters on Patreon, an opportunity to come on the show, be one with us, if you will. And we ask them a question, and we give them an opportunity to kind of give their answer. This week, we have General Andrew Staley.
What up, Andrew?
Last minute submission here, actually. We were a little behind, and he was willing to jump in and get this to us right away.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
The question we asked is, Benioff and Weiss are slated to tell new stories with characters separate from the Skywalker saga, Sky Wars. So describe the type of new character you would like to see in the next Star Wars movie. So Andrew, what do you got?
Hi guys. The kind of characters that I'd like to see in the future Star Wars movies, including the Benioff and Weiss, I'm not really sure. Tried to think about it for a few minutes, but honestly, I really don't have any expectations. I just know that the Jedi and the Sith have really encompassed the 9 movies that we have now, and Resistance was one of the first series animated-wise to touch on something without the Jedi in it specifically. That's been a nice departure, and then looking forward to The Mandalorian. So as far as once 2022 gets here, I just know I'll be ready to see something Star Wars, and I'm excited about that. Whatever kind of characters that come along with this new set of movies, I'm just going to be excited to see it. So thanks a lot, guys. May the Force be with you.
Okay, all right, Andrew. I I think you're a man after my own heart there. I think I'm the kind of person too that is like, you know what? Just I'm not looking to nail down anything specific. I just really kind of want to soak in whatever the creators want to give me. You know, I'm with you. I think that's dead on. John, are you feeling the same way, or is Andrew crazy?
I mean, I was hoping that Andrew would say like, I want to see someone like this or something like that. But I have to say the diplomatic answer, I think, is the right way to go. Especially, you know, hearkening back to what I was talking about in the poll results on this past Monday's episode of why so many people are eager to move on to new characters, is that we don't have to preconceive and say, this is what Luke would have done, or this is what... We don't know who these people are yet because we don't know who they are. And I like the idea of Andrew is flipping over the page on his easel and there's a blank page there and he's ready to take on whatever Benioff and Weiss throw our way. So even though it's almost like a non-answer, it is a great answer. So Andrew, thank you so much. And again, for doing that in short notice, I really appreciate that. You knocked it out of the park as always, and thanks as always for your support, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's tough to go into something where you have no information. Like, we don't have a title, we don't have anything, so it's literally, it could be anything. So Andrew, first of all, great job. Second of all, love your backdrop with all the stuff on the walls. It's really cool. But yeah, I agree with you. It's really hard to decide what you want when you don't even know what that could be. There's just so many opportunities in the Star Wars universe that we have yet to explore. So I'm totally with you that I just want more Star Wars. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yep.
I'm with you. So great job. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that wraps up the Patreon Podrace. We're gonna head into our discussion. John, are you gonna tell us what we're gonna be talking about?
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
That's usually what we do, James. And what we are doing this week is, now, again, I'm going to set the tone. It's as if we were walking out of the theater and this happened. So what if Kylo Ren's fate is too similar to Darth Vader's? So Darth Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi, he decides to turn from the darkness, do something good to save his son, and then he died doing it. What if Kylo Ren does something similar where he does one major good deed at the very end, but it costs him his life? So, in other words, it's sort of a redemption tale there, just like Darth Vader, however you want to slice it, but he dies. How will fans react to that? So that's kind of the discussion we want to have here a bit. So we're painting the picture that, though, this is happening, and again, this doesn't mean this is what I want to happen, or this is what Lacey wants to happen, or James. It's if this occurs, because and the reason why I came up with this, I'll be honest, a lot of people, including myself, have said they might have some issues if JJ goes down that same exact path and ends that villain's character in that way, because we already saw it happen with Return of the Jedi. We may be rubbed the wrong way of getting that same type of ending. So I think the narrative is there for people to have concerns, and that's why we wanted to have that discussion. So guys, let's say it does happen, and let's say Kylo Ren does something great, and it's a great deed to show that, you know, I'm righting a wrong here, but it costs him his life. Very similar to what happened with Vader. How do you think that will be received? First of all, with you guys, and also, how do you think Star Wars fans who went into that maybe thinking there'd be an issue would receive it? Who wants to start?
James.
Okay. I think that I know we're pretending that this does happen, but I'm going to say I don't think this will happen for the reaction. I think that if this exact scenario happened, you know, he's doing something, I know exactly what I got to do. So he runs into the building and she's like, no, Ben, don't do that. You'll die. And he says, I got to go do the thing. And then, so he goes in and he pushes the button and he explodes and whatever. I think that there was a pretty open backlash about The Force Awakens. and how it just felt like, I get it. It's a different movie, but it just felt a lot like a retelling of A New Hope. That's what everybody, not everybody, but that was one of the bigger
A lot of people felt
issues
that
that
way,
people
yeah.
had with episode 7. Yeah. Not that it was a big thing, but it was probably one of the largest complaints that we heard. So I have a feeling that JJ, being the director, learned his lesson from that. And I think that if they did go down this route, I think that the overall brainchild that is Disney and him and Chris Terrio and all that, I think that they realized that this would be looked at more as John puts a cop out, like, oh, you just kind of wrote the same story as stuff we'd already seen, rather than a really cool repeat of history. Like, I was trying to do the whole like George, it rhymes thing, but you guys just aren't seeing that, and it just ended up coming off like a ripoff. And I think they're more aware of that than most people like to admit. So they are going to stay away from that exact version of what they're going to do with this. I still think there's possibilities of him being redeemed. I still think there's possibilities of him dying, but I don't know about this version where he does something for the good of, I don't know. It seems too close, too similar, and I think there could actually be a little bit of a letdown with, it was the Vader story. I mean, I think that's where you're at, John.
So you
Lacey,
think same crowd that felt he rehashed A New Hope would give the same reaction to that?
It's weird because I know we've had this discussion before where it's like people go in and they said they saw Force Awakens and they're like, oh, it's all just the same thing again. And so then they go into Last Jedi and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel Star Wars enough. It's like, I know these are two different people. It's not the same people who can't make up their mind and they don't know what they want. It's some people didn't like what they did with Last Jedi, but they did like what they did with Force Awakens, and other people think differently. But I do think that if they did this thing with Rise of Skywalker, that old Force Awakens crowd who maybe did like Last Jedi and they're like, well, at least they're not just rehashing everything, is going to come back out and be vocal again.
So Lacey, if this scenario plays out in this way, where I know you're a huge redemption person, you get your redemption. He ends by doing something great to vanquish evil and help the good guys, but he dies. What do you think the reaction by people would be to that, if it is similar to like how Vader went out?
So I think that right now there are two types of people. People that want to see Kylo die and people that don't want to see Kylo die. Mm-hmm. I think in this scenario, which I don't want to see him die, and he's redeemed, it's too much like Vader. And I just think that Vader's ending is so perfect the way it is in Return of the Jedi that it would kind of ruin that story for me to just bring it up again and regurgitate it in this way.
Sure.
I just think it's got to be either he dies and he dies bad, or he lives and he's redeemed. It can't be both, because like James said, you're just going to have the people that are like, oh, Force Awakens was New Hope. You're going to be like, okay, so you did whatever you did in the middle, and then now you're just doing Return of the Jedi again. Mm-hmm. And I feel like because you had people die in Rogue One, and then you had Vader die at the end of Return of the Jedi and be redeemed, it would just be again someone's dying, and again someone's a good guy. And I think that doesn't lend itself to a very good story if we're just retelling the same thing over and over again. And I know it's like that play on like, oh, history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. But how creative is that actually in the bigger scheme of things of 40 years in the making, and you're just going to say the same thing again?
Right.
Like,
I agree.
come on.
Yeah, that's why
it's kind of lame.
I really don't like when people use that one-off line of George Lucas saying it's like poetry, it rhymes. Like, I bet he wishes he never said that, because people take that as though that's the Bible of George Lucas, and it's overstated, and
Right.
you could match things up to make it look however you want, and with parallels. I get that people do that all the time, especially the way you can Photoshop and merge things. But I agree. The thing that I find interesting, though, I think there is a big population of Star Wars fans who think this is going to happen this way, where they don't think Adam Driver is going to survive this movie. They think Kylo Ren will die, but they can't see him going full bad. So you only find one path, and that's him doing something right or doing something good, but also not making it out. So
I think I mentioned this a while ago. It's the 4-quadrant thing. You have redeemed and lived, redeems and dies. Not redeems and lived, not redeemed and dies. And it's like you have to choose one of those 4 options, and you start looking at him and you're like, does anybody really think that he's going to be not redeemed and live?
right.
Do you think he's going to be evil through the whole movie and they don't kill off that character and he survives and it's open-ended, that he's still out there being evil?
Yeah.
I don't
Imagine
think
that's the
case.
ending. Everyone's like, wait.
Yeah. So it almost feels like you can rule that out unless they really want to go like crazy, with it. But you probably rule that one out. And then you have this other one, which is something we feel like we've already seen, which is redeemed and dies. So it's like those two kind of seem a little not likely. So then that's where it comes in with Lacey's option, which is redeemed and lived, and then her other one is not redeemed and died. And it's like those two seem like the most likely options.
What if, though, he doesn't get redeemed and he lives, but whatever happens, he gets so badly whatevered that he never takes the mask off, so Adam Driver doesn't necessarily have to play him
Oh
in the next movie.
no, I would.
I'm
have a
not
big
saying I
problem
agree
that.
with it.
Yeah,
I'm saying, what if, though?
I think because this is built,
Like his face gets so messed up he can't remove the mask like Vader.
Yes, like Vader.
and then they bring Keanu Reeves in to play him. I think I really have a problem with the way. I mean, the way they're marketing this so far, anyway, is this is the end of the Skywalker saga.
Sure.
So I have to assume all the Skywalkers are going to be gone by the end of this, and I don't know if that means Leia dies too or what have you. But he is a Skywalker, and I know people have a hard time.
He goes by Solo, though.
I know. You're joking, right?
No, I'm not.
I love how people he's still a Skywalker though by blood, and that's
Of course,
the point
but
of it.
I'm
Yeah.
saying if the Skywalkers are ending and everyone keeps saying that, technically he's a Solo, so he could live at the end and be a Solo and not a Skywalker.
Well, technically, he's a Skywalker because if he died in a burning flame of lava and they had to test his DNA, they'd be like, "Oh, he's got that mighty Skywalker blood. He's a Skywalker." His last name could be a pineapple. He's still a Skywalker. So technically, he's still a
Leia's
Skywalker.
considered a Skywalker, even though she's
Right.
she's a Solo and she's an Organa and
Right.
she's a Skywalker.
Right.
But she's never gone by Skywalker.
So, with that said, that this is the conclusion of the Skywalker
Not
saga.
that she really goes by Solo either.
I add that to the fact that I also don't think Adam Driver has any intention of coming back after this. His career is taking off, and I think he's been rubbed the wrong way by fans, and he's a little scared off by fandom in this, and he's kind of paid his debt. He did his 3 movies, and I think he's done. So I think he's dying, and I've said that for a long time. I don't think he's making out of this movie. I would be very surprised, but happily surprised, if he died the villain, because it would be different, and it would be a big risk and a brave move by JJ to do it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think JJ may go in a way that is similar to Darth Vader, and I have a bit of a problem with that. And I do think if this happens this way, it will be a big problem with fans. And I don't mean just that pocket of fans. I think a lot of fans will have a problem with that, because some fans will feel ripped off. Like, why did I waste my time on 3 new movies that we waited so many years to continue from 1983 to now to see the same exact end for our villain. And Lacey, you touched on this a little bit. I think that takes away from Darth Vader's ending a little bit. It's like kind of like when you like have a song, James, I'm sure you guys had songs in your band and you felt like somebody got ripped off one of your guys' songs, and like that's how I feel like Darth Vader would feel like, man, I had this awesome ending. And I mean,
we've talked with a lot of people, especially at Celebration after they released the trailer, and people even said like Palpatine's kind of downplaying the ending of Darth Vader. Him being back.
Yes.
So
yes.
It concerned all of us of
right.
how this is going to play out in the next movie, because that kind of gets erased. That
right.
finality of where Vader's journey went and how he ended is
right.
now up for question. And then if this is the same thing, it's like, okay, but then that totally takes away the importance of Vader's redemption and Vader's coming back for his own son.
And if I could, to parlay off that, you put a thought in my mind.
Uh-oh.
I think JJ is cognizant of that, and Disney probably is too, because they're protective over Darth Vader. He's their biggest property as a character.
Right.
That's why I don't think Palpatine's coming back in a big way. I think it is going to be something supernatural and maybe something still in the background, but affecting what's going on now. I don't think they bring him back in a big way because, like you say, that would diminish what Vader did, and we've been saying that for a while. Once they said he's returning, so with that in mind, then you still have Kylo Ren kind of as your main lead physical villain still at this point. So that kind of changes my thought on that too. It's Kylo Ren still the big bad when it's all said and done, and I don't know. I just don't know.
Because we don't know how Richard Grant's character's playing into it. We don't know anything like that.
And
Matt Smith.
yeah.
But I feel like Richard Grant is definitely part of the other side of Star Wars. He's part of the war, not the lore.
He's a muggle.
Like, how does General Hux fit into this?
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you're not a Force user, you're not playing a massive role.
You're not part of this story. You're nothing.
Yeah, right.
John, I like what you're saying, and I don't really know exactly which side I'm falling on, but you've said a couple times that you feel like the end of the Skywalker saga means that Kylo Ren has to die, and I don't know that you can really say that. When it comes to a character or story ending, you're saying this is the end of the saga, this is the end of their story. To me, I don't necessarily know why that character has to die. Like, I was trying to think of an example, and I was like, I kept coming up with ones that like they ended up bringing back, and they brought like Indiana Jones, like the end of the Indiana Jones saga, and then it's like, no, they're still doing them. So, but the only one I could come up with was Back to the Future. It's like, if you saw a pitch for Back to the Future Part 3 and they were like, this is the end of the Marty and Doc Brown adventures through time, see the dramatic conclusion. Why do we come to the conclusion that one of those characters has to die? Because it's the end of their story. It's like the end of the story can be finality, that like all of that is done.
Right.
That's it.
The difference,
and nothing ever happens with the rest of their life. They live the rest of their life peaceful, normal, part of society or away from society, whatever it is. So I'm not really sold when you use a character having to die as evidence of, or the end of the Skywalker saga as evidence why a character has to die. I'm like, I still think it's very easy to say this is the end of this character's story, and not just him, but every other character in that bloodline.
Because you say, but the difference to me is I can't see a situation where this guy lives and his story goes on somehow and it's a happily ever after everything he's done. I think the only way for him to see the light is he doesn't make it out. Because I can't see, that doesn't make sense to me for this story to end, especially in this final one movie, how they're going to end this thing and then be like, and then Ben Solo became a farmer.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with John only because the what Daisy and everybody else that's been saying about this movie, but especially Daisy lately, has been talking about how emotional this movie is and how some of the scenes are so emotional and everything is so, gripping and it really moves you. They can't, a lot of stories like Harry Potter, Hunger Games, even Twilight, when they advertise the final chapter, they always advertise that someone's not getting out. People aren't coming out of this alive. Harry Potter, Snape was a character that the whole time you think he's the bad guy. At the end, you finally figure out he's a good guy. He had to die. He dies. Spoiler alert if you haven't read Harry Potter. Hunger Games. All the way through, you're like, all these people are dying. Finnick dies. He's one of the best characters. They kill him. He gets his head bit off because they need someone like that to die to show that the sacrifices that were made along the way weren't in vain and the weight of the war itself. So a character like Kylo Ren, the reason people are leaning towards the fact that he has to die is, like John said, because he's done all these terrible things. What would redeem him to be able to have that happy ending? I'm trying to figure out where you're coming
from, Lacey, because aren't you the person that argues for you think he's going to live?
Absolutely. But I'm saying, I understand why people think that, though, because in past stories,
I do too.
There's always these characters that don't make it out.
Right. And
I'm just trying to give credence to how both situations are likely to me, and I could see how that could be a good, dramatic closing end to these stories.
If this is the end of the Skywalker saga, that means there's not going to be any books or comics or anything about this family that takes place after this movie. This is turn the page, close the back cover, done. End of the Skywalker saga. So to me,
that raises another question. You said this family. Is that referring to... Oh, you're referring to the Skywalkers.
Yes. And
I actually thought you were referring to Rey and Ben.
No.
Because if they do make it out alive, then, let's say, I mean, they kind of had these interesting romantic ties. They may be friend or emotional, connection ties. But if they did have romantic ties and he does redeem himself and he does live, then that sets up the story of like, well, then how does the Skywalkers end? Even if they're farmers, there's still children involved.
That's why it's not happening.
Then that gets into that weird thing. But that's why I'm saying I think he could live, but I don't know that he necessarily. I think if he does live, then that has to snub the romantic angle.
I just don't see what kind of good movie storytelling is going to have this guy go into this movie as evil as he's been, back with a mask on, full dark side, potentially Sith, maybe, who knows? Palpatine in the mix, and then somehow you're going to flip it where he comes back to the light, and then he's good, and then, but it's still, the story still ends. Like there's not room there to do it. It just, unless you do a massive time jump, and that would be kind of really bad, I think. At the end, I just don't see it. And it's not that I don't necessarily, I hate the idea. I just don't see that as a good way to end this story. So I keep pointing.
What if he turns, but doesn't sacrifice himself, just straight up dies?
So what
is that different enough from the Darth Vader story?
What do you mean? He turns and he just dies in battle?
Yeah, like, Rey, I'm on your side. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna go into this war. I'm gonna jump into this TIE fighter, and then boom,
I don't think there's no way.
I mean, that's a dumb scenario. But what I'm saying is, like, what if he just like heroically dies on the battlefield, and it's not like a sacrifice thing?
If he's
like,
dying,
could they change his death into something that isn't sacrifice?
No, I think if he's going to die in a way that's him redeeming himself, it's going to be something like you and John have said, where it's like, oh, there's this one button on the space station that forces it to explode. Let me go.
So it's the Vader thing.
Yeah, or like, hey, let me throw you in this escape pod, but there's only room for one of us. Escape pod.
Armageddon?
Yeah.
Guess who wrote Armageddon?
J.J. Abrams.
James, it's going to be like our t-shirt. I know what I have to do. He said it in The Force Awakens, and he killed Han Solo. He said it in The Last Jedi. He killed Snoke. And maybe he says, I know what I have to do, and this time it's going to take himself out.
Or maybe it's I know what I have to do early on in the movie, and he jumps to the good side and he helps them fight for the rest of the movie.
With his mask on, and just like, hey, Poe.
We still don't know that that's him in the mask. Still don't know that it's him.
Well, that's him in the mask, so.
Lacey, we've never really gotten a clear-cut answer on this.
I know.
Assuming he does switch sides mid-movie, let's say, and the end is like Rey and Kylo fighting the bad guy.
Yeah.
Then what happens to Kylo Ren, to Ben Solo, after the movie's over?
So I said this when we gave our episode 9 thoughts, our premonitions of what we thought was going to happen. What
pitches.
I think is going to happen is I think that he's going to redeem himself. There's going to be a scenario where he dies, but he doesn't die. Everyone thinks he dies, but then he's still alive and he goes off into the sunset with Rey, where everyone else thinks he's dead.
And Rey disappears too?
With
as
him.
Friends.
They could be friends. They don't have to be romantic.
Why would
Because
Rey
if
ditch
they're
her friends,
romantic, then the Skywalker saga, the end of the Skywalkers, is a lie.
It could be either or. I don't think end of Skywalkers means that the Skywalkers have to die. I'm going to set that up right now. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the end of this story, and I think the end of the story can have a happy ending. I don't think everybody has to die.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was saying earlier, except for like flipped.
I think he has to die though because of the reasons
I don't think that's
said.
true.
Yeah. That's why this idea of
I've already given my ideas, by the way, that I do agree that it could be a rehash. And that's why I just gave my idea of what it wouldn't be.
You know
a
why?
rehash.
Because and to bring it back full circle to that seems like the compromise. And that is like when the original trilogy came out, there weren't people going into Return of the Jedi saying like, oh man, he's his dad. Like, I really hope he makes it, he changes and he makes it out. And because the prequels aren't written yet and you didn't know Anakin and you didn't like get close to him in that way. It was just Darth Vader. Now it's like people are so vested in this character and they're, and everyone in every fandom now, redemption's like this huge thing. Everyone needs to be redeemed. There's no more bad guys. I'm not saying he won't be, but the compromise seems to be, okay, well, he'll get redeemed, but he's got to die. And those two things are always paired together, and it seems like the most obvious thing. Now, if it happens, I think, like I say, it's going to be a big problem for people. I really
think
do.
it could literally be a scenario where, like I said, he dies, the audience thinks he's dead, and he's not. Kind of like where Batman is, where it's
I was about to say the Batman thing.
So
I was
like,
thinking about it earlier, too.
You could see it being a good ending where Rey thinks he's dead, Poe thinks he's dead, Finn thinks he's dead. Leia knows he's not dead. He goes off on his own without anybody knowing, finally at peace with himself that this is the end of the story.
Like Dexter?
I guess I don't watch that show, so I
He's
don't
just
know.
like a logger.
To me,
Right, but like imagine that scene where Leia sees him off in the distance, kind of gives him a nod knowing you do you go do your thing, and he just has that peace with himself. But then Rey and all of them think he's dead and gone, and the world thinks he's dead.
That takes away from it's really heavy and emotional thing you were saying before, though, to me. Because then who dies? Who's the loss?
well, she's saying it is him in the sense that like we lost Batman.
Because
Like,
you
he
can
died,
have
he
a very
sacrificed
emotional
himself.
scene with Rey, and then she doesn't realize he's alive.
Because as far as her character is concerned, like in reality, Adam Driver's not dying, but her character thinks that the character in front of her is dying. So regardless if the character actually does die or not, she is filming that scene as if he was dying.
Right,
Yeah,
and
I'm not
especially
talking
if you
about that.
have the movie where Rey and Kylo work together the rest of the second half of the movie, and she builds this bond with him for him to then, for her to think he's dead, she could have that emotional moment where she says goodbye, not knowing that he's not dead at the end.
Here's a question. Because you keep bringing up the halfway through the movie, he turns thing. I don't think that's happening. And the only reason why I say that is because when do we think they're showing up and seeing the Death Star when the crew's overlooking it? Like, I'm thinking that's final act of the movie. Right?
So I'm basing my opinions on...
Maybe it's the first.
So I'm basing my opinions on stuff they showed at Celebration that doesn't have any explanation yet.
I hear you.
Which is footage of him in the desert where he doesn't look very angry, and the 3-4 of them with C-3PO and everything in that tunnel cave thing where they're looking at someone in the desert but don't look very angry, except Poe does. Like, there's a lot of... And then, like, her jumping the TIE interceptor silencer thing. Like, we don't know what that is yet. So I'm keeping it open to the idea that it could be that he's working with them.
And you know what's funny? I don't want to go too tangent here, but like the comparison shots of that to Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, that plane is out to kill that guy. So if that's the parallel he's doing, then that TIE fighter's not there to play jump rope with Rey.
Yeah, but people do stuff all the time. That doesn't mean that.
That was a good comparison, though. That was interesting. But I don't know. I personally think the end of the movie is taking place by the Death Star wreckage. I think that fight between her and Kylo Ren, which she confirmed is them fighting, and it's the biggest fight they've done together.
Did she say it was them fighting alone?
She didn't say that, but she said it's them fighting. She definitely said that. And
yeah, but maybe she was allowed to say that because it's in the picture, but she didn't say, like, are they fighting together? Are they fighting? Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, that's the world we live in, is you can't take it as it is.
I know.
Well, if you want to go back to that art book, which I don't really think is too heavy influence there, but in that photo, their lightsabers are clashing.
Yeah, it's true.
I think they're definitely fighting. I'd be shocked if we had another Star Wars movie where you don't have a big lightsaber duel, and who else is going to be doing this? Right?
It's true.
So
yeah, as much as we praise The Last Jedi lightsaber fight, it's not a duel.
No.
It got a lot of criticisms for that. So to go into this and you maybe have one at the beginning with her and Kylo that we've talked about before, but then to not have a final big epic lightsaber battle at the end.
I think that they're going to be fighting till the end, and it looks like his mask is off by that point, and maybe there is a moment where he does something good, or she gets herself in trouble, and then he winds up turning. I don't know, but I think he's going to be Kylo Ren till the end at least.
Question. What do you think is the last thing that comes out of his mouth if he dies?
Thank you.
You think he's going to say thank you?
Yes.
All right.
Because
it's not a bad answer.
They're gonna bookend that baby, like what he said to Han Solo after he killed him.
What's the first thing he says to Rey?
Look how old you've become.
No.
The girl I've heard so much about.
Does he say, he doesn't say it's you?
When does he first encounter her? In the woods?
So he says it is you in the book. He doesn't say it in the movie.
No, but that's on Starkiller. I'm talking about the first interaction between
on Takodana
and Rey.
Yeah, he says the girl I've heard so much about.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, I was hoping that might be a little like bookend line.
He freezes. She shoots at him 3 times. He blocks it 3 times, and then he freezes her. And he goes... He walks up, looks her up and down, and goes, the girl I've heard so much about.
Yeah, he like paralyzes her.
Guess how many times I've watched that movie.
Yeah.
More than me, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So should we do final thoughts here? I know we're up on an hour. What do you want to add here, James?
My final thought on this, I would say, is that I agree with John.
Go ahead, James.
My thoughts on this are that I'm still kind of like indecisive on how I think this could go, because I really do think that they could go down a bunch of different avenues. When John's question comes up, do I think that if they did this, fans would look at it like a cop-out? Yes, I do. And the funny thing too is that, Lacey, you were comparing, him kind of like fake dying, but then being able to survive, like the Batman thing. What's funny, I wanted to throw this in there too.
It's not fake dying. It's they really think he's dead.
No, I know, but in the case of Batman, he was like fake whatever.
Sure.
But the thing is, going into that movie, before I even saw that movie, I said, he has to die. He has to die. That's how this movie ends. It's the perfect ending. And when I was watching the end of that movie, I was like, yes, they're doing it. This is exactly how I want this to go. And when he showed up at the end and they were like, not really dead, I was like, that's the cop-out.
Yeah, I was going to say, you thought that was the cop-out.
That's the one that I'm like, no, the guy sucks.
That's a different comparison to me. I have a hard time
I would be
connecting
kind of bummed, like, yeah.
Because
so I don't know.
Batman's Batman.
We'll see. We'll see that, but that's my
my final thoughts on it are, and then Lacey, I'll give you the final word, but I think the compromise is the biggest thing here, because you have a lot of people saying this guy's got to die, he's the bad guy, and then you have people saying like, well, I want to see the last Skywalker be good and being good. So those two things come together, and that's why people think that's the most common exit point here. But again, it could be looked at as you just did Darth Vader again, and that's the cop-out. So it's dangerous turf for J.J. Abrams, and I'm really curious what he ends up deciding to do, working with Chris Terrio. I'm glad. I really have no idea. I'm not sure what to expect here, and I hope I don't find out before we see it in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if Kylo Ren dies, is redeemed and then dies, it's going to downplay what happens with Vader, which I have said before is one of the best scenes in Star Wars is when he gets redeemed with Luke. It's so emotional. It's one of my favorite scenes. Like even growing up, that was one of the scenes that I connected with the most. I'm very close with my own father. So I would just feel like that would be rehashing something that's already such a special moment in Star Wars and to the fandom that it wouldn't be fair necessarily to George Lucas that they'd be like, yes, let's just have Kylo have the same fate, because I don't think it holds the same weight that Vader and Luke hold. And I think that the only way
his
for this
ain't got weight.
Yeah. Or what's the word that you use?
It
Gravitas.
rhymes. Yeah.
Gravitas.
So I think that the only way that this is going to be what they say satisfying is if he dies and he's bad, or he lives and he's good. I don't think you can do he dies good, because it literally will just be the same story again. And JJ, I think, is so afraid of doing the rehashing like he did with The Force Awakens, that he will do everything in his power to make sure that he doesn't get that criticism again. And I think that's his biggest pressure point going into this movie, making sure he doesn't do that again.
Right. That's why he's like, this desert planet's called Pisana.
I mean, Jakku. I mean, Tatooine.
So that's it, and we survived that one, and we're gonna have more discussions about Kylo Ren leading up to the Rise of Skywalker. I'm sure we'll do even a Reylo one and all that stuff, and proof here that you can have this type of discussion and not be a complete jerk about it. So congrats to the three of us. But,
yay, team!
So that wraps up. Let us know what you guys think. Is it? What'd you say, James?
He said, I hate both of you.
Nice. The truth finally comes out. Yeah, Haiti Baney. So let us know what you guys think about this. If it does happen where Kylo Ren dies, but he does it in a very Vader type of way where he's sort of redeemed, is it a cop-out? Are fans going to backlash on that? Is it going to be too close to Return of the Jedi? So give us your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think. And we'll talk about this more, obviously, in the future and everything surrounding this character. But that's it for that. Now we're going to send it to a double dose of Resistance Transmissions with our friend, Ms. Lacey Gillerin, who's ready to do the thing.
Do it. Doing the thing. So it is time for Resistance Transmissions. All right, guys. So how this works is, you guys know, John puts up a crazy, wacky situation. You guys give your answers, and I read them live on the show. So it looks like we have a double dose. So
And
Johnny
guess what, guys? This time, Lacey also put up a crazy, wacky situation.
I did?
You did. You'll see in a minute.
Oh
Spoiler
my.
alert.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
All right. So you should have put double, like the word for two for French is like de. Double de.
Double dukes.
Okay. So which you guys could see how John spelled situation. He spelled it sich-u-a-shun. All right, number 1. Thrawn Treason's excerpt alluded to the Empire dealing with potential budget cuts. Name and describe a program that you think the Empire would cut if they were having budget issues.
Yay, you made one.
I did it. I'm so creative. I said this last week, and I can't believe John listened to me. First is Mark Newbold at prefect_timing from Fantha Tracks. Hi, Mark.
What up, Mark?
We miss you, bud. He said, little holes for drinking straws made so Vader can drink without removing his helmet. Next is Pete Flutzer at Flutzer Pete. He said, I'm afraid we're going to have to eliminate all stormtrooper target practice.
Oh.
That explains a lot, Pete.
What up, Pete?
Yeah.
Next is Patrick Covey at Gannon136. And he said, apparently there were budget cuts on men. Jared on Death Star 2. Jared on Death Star 2 needed more men.
Yeah, that is true.
Need more men.
Yes. The Emperor's coming here.
Next is David Weiser at Weiser_David wrote propaganda marketing. Budget cuts meant they can no longer afford the rights to John Williams' Imperial March.
Nice. That's a Solo reference, I believe, because they use that in movie.
It is.
Yeah.
Hashtag make Solo 2 happen.
Yes.
Next is Scott Gibson. Hi, Scott. At Scott Gibby. And he says exhaust port covers.
That is a clever answer indeed.
That
Good
is
job,
good.
Scott.
All right. So
Wait, there's more?
there's a second
dose.
one.
A second situation?
There is. Situation
Oh.
de is we all want
De.
yeah, that's how we say it. De. We all want Disney Lucasfilm. I hope our French listeners are appreciating that, by the way. They're probably like, Lacey, that is not how you say it. You are insulting our culture. We all want Disney Lucasfilm to hashtag make Solo 2 happen. So let's say they finally do and we see Han meet Boba Fett for the first time. What do they say to each other when they first meet? Aaron Rabinowitz at Abba O Productions said, Han, aren't you a little short to be a bounty hunter? I thought that I was about to read the second one. That's funny. Well done, Aaron. Next is pilot number 4 at Odell Adam. Still going strong with that.
Oh, boy.
Is Boba Fett says, Han Solo? Han Solo where? Turns around quickly and knocks Han off a desert skiff.
Nice.
Next is Scotty J-Ro at the Scott J-Ro. And he said, Han, I've heard about you, Fett, and apparently you're overrated. Boba Fett. And you have some interesting history on that Corellian freighter's computer terminal.
Nice. Scotty referencing both Hall of Fame tweet messages. Good job, Scott.
Well done. Next is Dekind Awakens at Dekind Awakens, which is Mark. He said, Boba, are you excited about this panel? Han, absolutely. Boba, why are you here? Han, because I like Star Wars. So he's doing me. This is me. Okay. Why are you here? Han, because I like Star Wars. Boba, are you particularly a fan of Mandalorians? Han, thinks Mandoborians. Yes. Boba, well, you hesitated. What is that about then? Han, the armor is cool. That's a lie. so
You have to explain that. Yeah.
I thoroughly appreciate this answer.
Yeah.
Mark is reenacting my conversation with Warwick Davis at Celebration, where I was eating popcorn at 9:30 in the morning and thought, oh, cool, he's going to go by me on his little scooter. And he stopped, started eating popcorn, and started asking me about The Mandalorian and why I was there. Little did I know, no one could see the back of, like, they weren't shooting the camera yet to the front of me, so people only saw the back of me, so only some people knew it was me. And then I find out online that people are mocking me because my response was, why are you here? Well, I like Star Wars.
Yeah. Yep.
And people are like, that's why we're all here. Because I was so caught off guard and I'm awkward, and that's how I reacted. And then he was like, so are you a fan of The Mandalorians? And because John and I had been saying Mandalorian for like 8 months, that's what went in my head. And I was going, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. And I was like, yes. And he was like, well, you hesitated. What is it about then? And I was like, the armor's cool. And then he moved on.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mark, for reminding me of my embarrassment where, you know, like tomorrow in the car on the way to work, I'm going to have a moment where you think about how embarrassed you are. And then you're just going to like cringe to yourself. Like that's going to be me tomorrow. All right. So last but not least is Rebel Scum Texan at Rebel Scum Texan. John.
Well, it's not his real name, right?
It's not his name.
Yeah.
You give people the... Okay.
His name's
Way to get
probably
your
like-
handle, Rebel Scum
His
Texan.
name's probably like Philip Johnson, and it's probably taken by someone else.
I appreciate your handle, Rebel Scum Texan, and
All right.
way to get your handle.
RST.
He says, Han looks at Boba and says, have you ever noticed how Return of the Jedi is the only opening crawl that has 3 ellipses while all the others have 4?
That's really observant.
Is that true?
I mean, it has to be true. It's written right here.
Is it though? Did we?
You mean ellipses is in paragraphs?
No, the dots.
No,
at
the
the
dots at the end.
Oh.
Wait, hold on.
I think that might be true, actually.
I wonder why.
I don't know, but I heard the one for episode 9 is just going to have a period.
How do you know that?
Because it's the end
It's the end.
of the Skywalker sentence.
Of the Skywalker sentence. It's just one big run-on sentence.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your answers. If you want to be on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Keep an eye out for John's crazy, wacky situation.
Or yours.
Or Baney's. He's got one
Or
coming up.
Baney, Zany Baney.
I do?
Yeah, I think you suggested one too.
And you could be on the show. Creative, funny, interesting answers win. And by win, I mean you get to be read by me, which sounds very self-centered. I am sorry about that. John, go next.
It's happening.
Next. Go ahead.
All she does is win, win, win.
John, next. All
Go,
right, guys.
yep. You.
Next up is our segment called Outro to the Weekend. And
Outro 101.
what we do here is we say goodbye. And we do fun things, though. So always listen to the very end because you never know. One day we may announce a giveaway at the very end. And you'll be like, I missed the giveaway. I can't believe it.
I
Treats.
have stuff to give away.
Ooh, interesting. Maybe we'll announce a giveaway at the end of this. But before we do that, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. And you can do that in several ways. Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube. There's a bunch of others too. If we're not there, let us know. We'll get on there. Make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com. That's our website for your latest news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. All things Star Wars every day. Stay up to date. StarWarsNewsNet.com. If you guys have been seeing these shirts, Supreme Leader, Make Solo 2 Happen, Gary the Porg, even our logo, which is behind Lacey there, go to tpublic.com/user/resistance broadcast. Check out our designs. Mr. Baney over here designs all of them, pretty much, including that logo you see right now if you're watching on YouTube.
So slick.
Check them out. Pick them up on a sticker, on a shirt, mug, whatever. We appreciate the support. Speaking of support, if you guys would like and you want more Resistance Broadcast content besides our 2 free episodes every week, head to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. You can start your support of us for just $2 a month at the tier 1 level. We have 5 tiers and we post new content on there pretty much every day. If you join us at the tier 2 and up levels, you can contribute to the show in segments like Will of the Force, all the way up to tier 5, where you can be on the show like you just saw Andrew before. So head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. We appreciate all of your support. And I want to say a special thank you to our generals. That's Carmelo, Brian Shalito, Andrew Staley, who we saw earlier. Great job, Andrew. Len Brown, Neil Lowry, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, and Val Trichkoff. Generals, we salute you. Thank you so much for all of your support. You guys are the best. Love you guys. And that is it for that. So now we just plug ourselves. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and over at Star Wars Newsnet. James, how about you?
At Myra Trunks, MIRAHTRUNKS on Twitter and Instagram, sure.
Excellent. Lacey?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin.
And eating dinner at her coffee table.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
All right,
General
guys.
Smiley showing up.
We,
Can you just do tauntauns for the next 2 minutes?
No.
No, can't do that. No. Oh, I
You
have
do
a
it
new,
once.
I have a new impression I want to share with you guys.
Oh, we're getting treats? Okay.
Yeah. So I was listening to the sound effect for the Imperial probe droids. You know those ones?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Wobble wobble.
Yeah. And I'm trying to like hear like English words out of it. And all I can come out of it is like this sentence. So whenever I do it, I do this sentence. I go, man over the fence. Man over the fence. Man over the fence. Man over the fence. So now when you listen to the Imperial probe droid, let me know if you hear the sentence, man over the fence. And that is it.
John is lame. John is lame.
That's not
Can you
it.
just
I
do
feel
the
like it doesn't
tauntaun?
just repeat itself. There's other words in there like man over the fence. There's a man over the fence. Like
man over the fence. Man over the fence. But it's not friendly, whatever it is. So it's like Lacey. All right, guys. Enjoy your weekends, and we'll be right back with you on Monday morning with another new episode right here on the Resistance Broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.